Hello, this is JayB and welcome to a tutorial, a proper tutorial this time, about creating a pattern on the Yamaha QY70 or QY100. I try to go a little bit more into detail into the beginning, into the basics, so because I got a lot of questions after the last approach to do this video. So I'm going to do this on the QY100. The QY70 is basically the same, just the layout of the buttons is a bit different, but I'm more used to the QY100, so this is much easier for me. So I've got this turned on right now, and since we're going to create a pattern, we of course need to go into pattern mode, which you can simply do by pressing the pattern button. And we see here the first factory pattern mixture, and you basically have 128 factory patterns which are not editable, and then you've got 64 user patterns, and you can reach there by either clicking through all the 128s or by holding Shift and pressing +1, so you get straight into the user patterns. So we choose an empty one, which is in my case pattern 3. So let's take a short overlook over the screen here. Of course, here there's pattern mode. Then you've got a pattern number, pattern name, which is currently blank, and the pattern section. You've got 6 sections of a pattern, which are intro, main A, main B, fill-in AB, fill-in BA, and ending. Blank is not actually a pattern section, but more for making a pattern break or pattern pause during the song mode. So intro, main A, main B, fill A, B, fill BA, and ending are those sections. You don't necessarily need to use them the way they're named, but it makes things a lot easier. As long as you're with the cursor, which you can move with the arrow buttons, of course, as long as you're in the upper section, you can easily select those sections with those 6 keys down here, or you go down and select them manually with the plus and minus buttons. Next to this, we've got a measure counter, which consists of 2 numbers. The first one is the current position, and the second one, which is right now selected, the number 2, is the length of bars of this particular section. I want to stick in main A here, and you can only edit this number as long as the section is empty. So right now it is empty, and we say we want to have main A to have 4 bars. We just increase the number with the plus and minus buttons. So, and if you want to change the first number, you can skip or just let it play. So you see it goes all those 4 bars in a loop. Right beneath that, there's the velocity setting, which is only for the rubber keyboard. You've got 5 bars. Each one of them has another half, so you can go from very quiet to very loud. And then there's those 4 R values, which is basically random velocity. And one means the randomness is low, somewhere, let's say, between 120 and 127 or something like this. So basically playing loud with only a light variety. You don't hear much difference, and the more you increase this, the more random changes you have in velocity. So I like to usually stick with R1 or R2 if I play on the rubber keyboard and if I want to have some human feeling in it. So on the right side, there's of course the tempo and the time signature. The time signature is global for the and tempo is global for the whole global for the whole pattern, and cannot be changed once there are sections filled somewhere. Next to it, there's the global chord part, which I call it that way. I don't know if there's an official title for this. And this has an influence on both the editing or recording or creating part of the pattern and the playback pattern. Next, there's a little switch fingered that toggles if you want to set the chords by pressing 3 or 4 keys, or if you want to use the basic notes here and the variations you find up here. So I prefer to have it turned off to use these two values, so basic note and the chord variation, major, major 7, 6, 7, minor, minor 7, and so on. And this clear means clearing a phrase. I'm going to, what is a phrase I'm going to do next. And below there, you've got the first 4 tracks of the pattern: drums 1, drums 2, percussion, bass. And if you go more down with the cursor keys, you've got the 4 chord sections, which can be anything. Actually, any track can be anything, but for organization purposes, I recommend to stick in this order. Okay, let's go on here. If you press pattern once again, you get into the mixer, where you can select voices, which are global pattern-wise. This means if you select it here, you can't edit the voices within the section, because usually you can do this. This is why I usually don't do this, to have more flexibility. So I leave these all with the dashes here. Down there, pan, pot, volume. Press menu and you've got the effect sense, reverb, chorus, variation, dry for each of the 8 channels, and another click on menu, you've got the voice edit here with cutoff frequency, resonance, attack time, decay time, release time, and the pitch bend sensitivity. Once again, on pattern, you've got the effect settings. Reverb and chorus are static, you can't change them, at least not in pattern mode. And you've got the variation effect that you can set to whatever you want. And of course, with menu variation edit, you can edit these effects even further. Exit, let's go out here, or you can basically switch through all these 3 screens by pressing pattern button. Okay, so I'm going to do some cheap pop pattern right now for demonstration purposes with absolutely no quality standard, but it should do for the tutorial. So let's start with the drums. These are the octave keys. You can go octave down and up. These are the drums. I'm going to stick with the normal drum set. Now we press record. Then we've got 2 ways to record these drums. Overdub means you have to record this in real time. And step means, step editor. I'm going to use the step editor for now. We can use the overdub later. Type is the value that defines how this phrase, which is this track in this section of this pattern, this is a phrase, how this phrase affects to the chord system, to the global chord system here. And bypass means it has no effect at all, because we don't want the drums to change if you change the chord. Otherwise it would be like, and so on. And here, of course, you can select the voice for this phrase in the section in this pattern. So we stick with the standard kit, and now we press on play, and we go into the step record mode. Yeah, this is the current position here up there, and here you can select the step or note length size actually. This means we're going to 16th notes. Velocity, of course, is random 1, like we said it earlier, and the gate time is, well, the note length within the step. So you can have 16th note with short note length and 16th note with long note lengths. For drums, this doesn't matter, so we leave it in this position. And I'm going to do an 8-beat, a simple 8-beat. So I'm going to select the 8th note here, and let's just do some basic pop drums here. And you can see the little arrow is just moving here. Oh, this was a mistake. So now we've got these 4 buttons here. Delete means deleting the note that's currently under the arrow. Biddle means back delete. This is what I'm going to do now. Rest is, yeah, like a rest, a pause. This means you skip this note if you want that. I don't want this now. And tie means you tie, or you pull the length of the last note to the next step. We are on 4, so we need a snare. Okay, this is our basic pattern. We now have to press stop, and we can listen to this. Okay, now if you want to make this a little bit more complex, we can go back into step edit, like again, pressing record, pressing play. And now if we go down through the cursor to the little arrow, we can now make additions to this, or we can edit all the single steps. These are, by the way, 32th notes, all those dashes here. And I just want to add some little 16th notes, some little hi-hat things. I don't know the word in English right now. So we go down with the velocity, so it's a little bit quieter. And we do this 16th notes right before the 3rd beat of the 2nd bar. And again, right before the 4th beat of the 2nd bar. And that's basically it that I want to add here. And now we can listen to this. Yeah, that's basically how it works. Okay, let's leave the drums here. Let's go to the bass, because this is the first time we have to pay attention to the chord section. Currently, there is a C major 7 chord selected. That means if we right now record a phrase here, we should record it in a C major 7 chord. Otherwise, the note adjustment doesn't work when you change the chords. So I'm just going to do an overdub record here, so to play something in real time. Chord type is bass, which basically means it adjusts the notes to the bass note of the chord, which is especially important if you do like a C chord with a, hold the octave down button, G chord, then it plays the bass, only the bass parts in G. But we don't want to do this now. We stick in C major 7. So, okay, we select like a simple fingered bass, an electric bass. And we're going to record something in real time. Okay, that's basically it. Yeah. So since I'm a perfectionist, I want to quantize this now, so it sticks straight to the drums. On menu, you've got several options here, and I want to do a job. This is where you have all those different modification macros, whatever you want to call them. And the number 01 is Quantize. Bass section from measure 1, beat 1 to measure 4, beat 4 in 16th notes. Because, well, it's actually I could do 8th notes here as well, but I just stick with 16th notes. Then you've got the strength if you want to make it a little bit more sloppy, not so tight, to have a little bit humanization left. Swing, of course, if you want to swing it, and you can also, I don't know, the gate time, whatever that means. I actually have no idea what the gate time here means. So anyway, I want to quantize this to 16th notes, so I'm just going to somewhere press enter, and that's it. Exit, exit, and we've got now a perfectly quantized beat. Right now, again, because I'm a perfectionist, I just want to lower the reverb on the bass. You can either, if you want to change those values, you can either press the minus or plus keys, or you hold Shift and press one of those numbers or several of those numbers. You can type in whatever. I want to have it all on 0. Release Shift, press Enter, and the bass is all dry. So, next thing we want to check is the edit mode. So menu, F3, this is the F3 key, to get into edit mode. This is like a list editor that you may know from digital audio workstations as well. So you've got the top means the beginning of the phrase, and then you've got all those events, which is basically just notes right now, with the position, the type of event, which is in this case a note. I don't know what exactly this symbol is supposed to be. The note, the gate time, which means the length, and the velocity value. So if you want to change some values here, you can do this by just selecting the value, changing it to another note like G1, or press just the key here in this case and press an Enter, and it's stored. If you press menu here on this, you've got again a lot of stuff that you might dig into it, but in this case I want to go into the phrase table. So this is where you can actually edit how the chord section affects the transposition of the notes. Again, you've got here it's a bass sound, it's a bass voice. The source chord is C major 7. So we recorded this in C major 7, and all the notes in the list should be C major 7. Here you can limit the range of notes where the transposition should take place. So if you don't want the bass to go below the E0 note, you select this as the low limit. And if the chord section thinks it should go below E0, it will just jump up an octave and play D1 instead. So this is the current chord, and high key, this is what you've got here. This is the highest possible note. Everything above that, which means E, will get transposed down. So we can test this right here. As long as you're in edit mode, you hear this phrase solo. And now we can go to G major. And you can hear this where my original playing was like, no, it should go to, but since I set the low limit to E, it will go instead. We can just set this feature to another value to prove this. See, it's going down, and now we go put this to E0 again. And it's the way a normal bass guitar would be like, a 4-string bass guitar. Okay. Exit, exit, back to the normal. Now let's add some, let's say, a Rhodes, Fender Rhodes. Again, first thing, of course, we need to select the track, and then we press record to set how we want to play this. I'm going to use overdub record here, so real-time record, because it makes things easier. Type, chord 1. Chord 1 means basically everything gets transposed based on the chord that you select. Let's just say I record this in C major and I press this chord. Then if you select another chord like F major on the global chord system, with chord 1 it will basically just transpose the whole thing, like to this or to this, depending on what the high note setting is. If you don't want to have it act like that, then you can select chord 2. This means it will try to select notes that are as close as possible. Like you have this, and then you've got this, which sounds a bit more natural, but has its limits. Let's take another look at those types. Your bass, like we said, is just transposition of the bass note. Bypass means nothing at all. And then you've got parallel. Parallel means that it gets transposed independent of what the chord variation is. So if we record a phrase in C major 7 and then we select an A minor chord, then it will not go like this, but it will go like this. So there are limited uses for that. So for the Rhodes piano, I'm going to choose chord 2 because this is the most human one. And we just see what happens. So what I just did, I select patch number 5 by, of course, setting the cursor to the instrument part, holding shift, pressing the numbers, which is in this case a number 5. That's Fender Rhodes sound. I'm going down 1 octave to make it sound a little bit more nice. And of course, I'm going to record in a C major 7. Okay. You just heard I did a little mistake. Let's hear this in solo. If you select this little part here, right on the very left, you can solo this track by pressing yes, but you can also mute this track by pressing no. And just on the side note here. There was a little mistake there in bar 3. So first, of course, I'm going to quantize this again. You know, the perfectionist thing. So, edit, menu, edit. So let's go there. And let's find this little mistake note in bar 3. This is the second note. You can also see this. This is very short, just 96 ticks. So we're going to delete this with this F1 button. And that's it. And gone it is. So since we're here already, let's go into the phrase table. Let's just have a little test right here. So we're going to select a few chords to see how it behaves. Let's make a major of this. You see that the low note, which should actually play the bass note of the chord, is, well, actually moved to a similar note. Or like I said, it's going to say like the near notes. Let's see how this sounds with chord 1 selected. This is all the same. And now it gets just transposed. Yeah. And now what I can do now is, like I said, I don't want the piano to go, here we go, to go like up there. Oops. So we select the high limit, and let's say to the G is my highest note that it's going to play. And then suddenly this sounds like this. This all depends on which sound you want to achieve. There are limits, of course, and you kind of have to arrange it a bit like this. Like, for example, if we change the high key to F, which means the G is basically deeper, doesn't sound too good in this case. So let's get out of here again, and let's just have everything playing together. So you basically, I choose main A, of course, here, select the chord section, and just play around with those chords. So I have first to set them, and with enter I apply them. Okay, let's just hear something. Works pretty well. Okay, so this is basically, well, these are pretty much the basics, how the chord system works, how the phrases work, how a pattern in general works. So the next thing I'm just going to show you is how to do a fill-in. So I'm going to select a fill-in here, which is basically like this, and then another section starts. And I'm just going to step record a fill-in here. Okay, that's it. And of course, we want to have a crash cymbal at the first beat when the new section starts, so it gets an accent there. And of course, we can't add the crash cymbal into the main A, because then every time the main A starts, that would be a crash cymbal. So we add this note at the end of the fill-in, which we do by editing the phrase of the drums here, menu, edit, and then menu, insert, we will insert a new note. The fill-in has only one bar, so we stick with measure 1, but we go to beat 4, and then we press plus 1 more, and it goes to beat 4 tick, that's what the small number is called, 479, because one beat is out of 480 ticks. So we select, of course, this is a note what we are going to add. We select the crash cymbal here, which is C#2. The gate length actually doesn't matter, and velocity like we want it. Let's set it to 95. And then we press enter, and you hear this cymbal once again. And if we press exit now, you can see it. It's the last event of the phrase. And exit here, and now if you listen to this, there is like this, the crash cymbal on the first beat of the bar. And if we now go from the fill-in AB to the main A again, there's this nice crash cymbal there. So I guess that's everything I have to say for the QY100. And the rest is actually up to you. What kind of genre you're making, what kind of instruments you're adding, because you've got all of these. And since you can edit all those elements in the phrase tail, you of course can have like a piano in the drums track here. If you just set it from bypass to chord and select from drums to piano. By the way, shift is a very important key. Like if you're stepping through the programs here, shift means you go to the different categories like pianos, chromatic percussion, organs, guitars. You go straight into those categories. And then if you release shift, you go to the single sounds, because there are over 500 sounds and you can't step through all of these. Unless you hold one, then it goes faster. And if you want to let it go even faster, you press plus at the same time, and it goes like really, really fast. Let's just do this in the opposite direction, and suddenly we're at the very last entry, which is Rocket 3. Okay, that's basically it. I hope you learned something from this tutorial. I hope it was better than the last one. I probably will delete the last one. And yeah, if you own a QY100 or QY70 and you've got any questions about this, leave it in the comments. Or write me a mail if you want to at contact@jaybmusic.net without dashes and anything. Or yeah, leave it in the comments. That's probably the easy thing. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, click a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, click thumbs down. If you don't care, then leave, and See you next time. Bye.